to the committee of whole meeting. Right here, Johnsburg High School auditorium. Let's see who's here.
Jim Barrett.
Here.
Jerry Harker.
Here.
Val Close. Here. Steve Lee. Megan Michael.
Here.
Kathy Knight.
Here.
Tom Espley.
Here. Please rise for the pledge. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have agenda design for citizens to speak. We'll go over to the finance report.
Everything's good.
Just trying to make Coop feel better. This year.
Trying to make Coop feel
Every
better.
other, yeah, right. He's
Stand effect. Yeah, this never happens. This never happens when you're not here, Coop.
I know, that's funny. Okay, well, good evening, everybody. I'm going to start off with taking a look at professional finance, business operations, personnel, and staff is here to help discuss our learning center direction proposal for the new high. So starting off with finance, another good news to the state, we have received first, second, and third quarter of our mandated credit marshals fully paid for the year. So they are pretty on time. We're not obviously that hopeful that we can afford the fourth closer to 30, but I'm not going to come out with it yet. In terms of local funding, our property taxes for the 2020 levy, the first payment is scheduled for May 24th, so by a week ahead of what I had anticipated. So good in good shape for local funding as well. We're not expecting the late payments that we received last year, so we're pretty hopeful that we're going to close this year. Just wanted to bring up the speed on the FY22 district fees and registration. We did open up registration kind of a soft open just to get it started. We're going to put out more announcements, but we wanted to touch base with you guys about the fees. After the event and discussed the fees for next year, we did determine that it would probably be best to kind of keep them flat. We had a lot of craziness going on this last year. We do want to take some time to review future registration fees, just due to the changes in technology and different material needs. But a lot of what we've been doing is relying on donations and federal funding and some other things in order to purchase technology. We really want to evaluate into the next couple of years what the cost of all of that is, whether or not we should raise up the fees for into the future. So we anticipate bringing you more information in the next few years on that. Another item I wanted to mention is that free lunches have been approved and extended to June of 2022. That's for all students district-wide. So we'll have another year of completely free lunches for any student that's interested and do not have to qualify for free lunch. The one thing we did want to mention though is obviously we still want our students to apply for free lunch because that does determine whether or not they qualify for a fee waiver. So for those families that want to be considered for a fee waiver, they would still need to apply for free lunch for next year. Also, I just wanted to bring to your attention at that time of the year where we discuss the end of the year financial action items. The first one is the resolution authorizing the transfer from other funds, which right now are in the net fund, the operations and maintenance fund, back into the working capital fund that basically came back to debt from last year. The next one is the resolution authorizing the transfer from working capital back up to those other funds. We're hopeful that we might not have to do that. We're kind of looking to see exactly when we close our fiscal year. But we anticipate much less of that transfer if we have to do it at all. It really kind of depends on where the capital happens in the year. out our banks. And the last one is the appointment of treasurer, which again, we just need to reappoint Jane Ryan as treasurer for this next year. So we'll bring those for approval at the this board meeting. Operations, Dan's going to pick up this section.
So, a lot to talk about here in this, and just kind of provide you with some updates of where things are at, what we're hearing, and all that good stuff. So, we have links up there for the different pages, whether it's Kent County Health Department or our own numbers. As a reminder, we update our own chart on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday with positive cases as well as those that are in quarantine. As long as I'm talking about that, I do want to thank Amber for doing that. She is religious about making sure she contacts her nurses every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday to be able to get that up, so I do want to say thank you to that. But now I'd like to get into kind of some more areas of concerns or areas that we're dealing with. The big one is we mentioned before here is quarantining students. That's a big issue, not only here in our district, but it's a big issue throughout the state. As a county, we've had several conversations about it. As a county, we sent a joint letter to the Illinois State Board of Ed, Illinois Department of Public Health, and Governor Pritzker, expressing our frustrations with the 14-day quarantine period to see if we can change it rather than 6 feet to go to 3 feet. So that way we can hopefully get some different guidance with that. That got sent last week, so we'll keep you posted if we hear anything or hear any changes in regards to that. But those are big issues, and we talk about it every week with the health department, and hopefully we'll see something change in regards to it. But I can't sit here right now publicly say yes or no at this point in time. So I know several school districts, and myself included, it almost feels like you got kids walking in the front door, and then sometimes they end up just turning, keep walking and go out the back door and have a quarantine. But I get it, and we'll see if we can get some changes with that. As you know, we're going to enter the bridge phase on the 14th of May, and then that really doesn't have a ton of impact on schools. And then we're going to switch to phase 5 if everything goes well on June 11th. So that's the question is, what does that mean for schools? If you go to phase 5 on the website, you click on it, it says reopening, blah, 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 schools, blah, blah, blah. So it talks about schools, but then at the end of it, it talks about continuing processes and protocols. So there's some things that we really need to get clarified, and really what we're seeing is the 3 big ones are, one is quarantining, and whether we can go into the 3-foot rule versus the 6-foot rule, meaning you're 6 feet apart, you got quarantine now, if you can get down to 3 feet, that's going to certainly help school districts throughout the state. The other one for not only us, and it's not a huge one for us other than Ringwood School, is social distancing in lunchrooms. Right now you got to be 6 feet apart. That makes lunchrooms particularly challenging. We can't get everybody up here at the junior high, but we have to use gyms, and the way Bridget's got it set up at Just, she's got 6 lunches, so we get everybody to take care of there. Ringwood's the challenge that next year, if we're all open and bring everybody back, we've got to figure out a way, if they don't change the 6 feet guidelines to be able to feed kids, and the cafeteria's not big enough to keep people 6 feet apart. So that's one, and then the last one that we're waiting for guidance on is what's going to be the regulations or the requirements, if any, in regards to mask wearing. So we haven't heard when or if the guidance is coming. There are some people that are merely speculating that when the switch to phase 5, that just means we're in phase 5 and away we go. There's others that we've heard saying that no, there's going to be some little guidance here or there for schools. We just haven't been told that. We were told that there was going to be a big guidance come out a couple of weeks ago, if you remember that, and it came out, but it was just pretty much one of the lessons that ISBE learned over the past pandemic, which was not a ton of help for schools. An update on remote learning. So I've been to a couple meetings with the health department and my couple superintendent organizations. So as it relates to remote learning, really remote learning, the way it's set up is tied to the governor's disaster order, and when the disaster order is lifted, that ends remote learning. I think the term that the gentleman from ISBE stated was, remote learning really ends once the disaster order is lifted. So the question then becomes, if we go to phase 5, does that lift the disaster order? Are they going to modify anything to continue to make us do some form of a remote learning option for next year? Right now, everything is some form of a physician's note in order to be able to have any remote learning at all. So somebody can't just request it, there has to be a physician's note, but we hear that that's going to get tightened down more, even if we have to offer it at all, if that makes sense. So we still have to get some guidance as it relates to the remote learning. Is there any questions on that stuff before I shift gears and COVID a little bit?
Has there been any discussion, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, good.
Has there been any discussions about making vaccinations mandatory?
There has been, just they're kicking it around. Other than that, nothing. It's been pretty quiet.
So if in the fall quarantining is still required, then some form of remote learning would be offered?
Well, that's what we have to discuss, is how to frame it if quarantining at 6 feet is still there or some form of quarantining. So what we're waiting for is, I want guidance from quarantining to see what we have to do, and at that point, then we can work on building what needs to be built, if that makes sense.
Yep, thank you.
I don't see the two, if this makes sense, tied together. If somebody's going to be remote learning, I see like exclusively under a doctor's note, that type of thing. That kind of as a third party is what a lot of districts are doing. And so it's just too hard on our staff.
Yeah, I couldn't even imagine trying to orchestrate that.
That was gonna be my question. We got these kids that, that's what comes out as a doctor's note, or we have a couple kids or something.
To be a third party or what? I don't know what district that you talk to that isn't using third party. At least in the Kevin, I don't know, not comparatively, I think that's what it is, third party. So there's just I mean, it's great when it came out of phase 5, but there's just so many unknowns that we're waiting for. So, and I learned our lesson. I don't want to plan and then some changes and get replan. We learned that lesson quite a few times. So we're hoping for more to come. And I could be wrong. We may just flip the switch and go remote learning, or go back to normal and have a great day. So a couple of other things just to kind of update you on the plexiglasses. So last time we talked, we moved it from 6 feet. We're going to go to 5 feet now. We're going to remove those. Then we're going to go into 4 feet. See how 5 feet goes. So we're going to slowly start to remove those out of the classrooms. We haven't had any issues with that. So we want to continue to do that. That's really a big request from our staff, actually, asking to get those out. I did attend a webinar in regards to what's referred to as the SHIELD test. It's a saliva-based COVID test that's being offered by the Illinois State Board of Ed. If you're a Tier 1 or a Tier 2 school in the evidence-based funding formula, which we're Tier 2, they cover the cost for it. It's a saliva-based test. You spit in it. 24 hours later, you get a result back. It's just for informational purposes only. I have heard nothing about anything like that being mandated for next year at this point in time, especially as they're talking phase 5. Some schools are considering it maybe for this year. They're using it for athletes in particular, so that's some extracurriculars and that type of thing. I did ask how long it would. We couldn't get it set up in time for the when we got going. 2.5 weeks left, so we couldn't get it set up in time, even if we wanted to. So, but that's something that we're monitoring. I've got information on it. I've talked to Chris Wisdom about it, but we're just continuing to see what phase 5 is going to tell us. And Jerry followed up a little bit more, but not specifically are they required in regards to vaccines. But as you saw, the FDA approved the 12 to 15, expecting the CDC to give the green light the next day or so for vaccines, for the Pfizer vaccine. We're working with the health department, and we're going to do a vaccination site. I think I might have mentioned this and been tied with McHenry. The health department has asked, rather than do that, they're going to set up at the Kmart in McHenry. That's a mass vaccination stop. They're going to designate times for students, 12 to 15, to be there, and designate times. That's not set yet when that is, but they're going to start there, so they're going to ask us to push that information out, which of course we're happy to get that information out to families. So we haven't been told when that is, but we do know that that'll be pretty quick once the CDC gets rolling and once they turn around and stuff. So we'll just be providing that information to our families. So imagine maybe, let's say Tuesday, because we're here. I have a meeting tomorrow afternoon with the health department. I'm not sure if they're going to give us an update on that because it hasn't been approved by the CDC. But we'll see. So, any questions on all of that stuff? Before Annie gets going, I know she's going to start talking about salaries and this and that, and some options for the board to consider. I just want to say, as we head into the final days, I just want to say thanks to our staff. You know, we've talked a lot about our staff in here, and I've been able to visit some buildings, and our staff are tired, guys, and staff all across the state are tired. It's amazing. I think I was talking to Amber today about it. You get into a rhythm when you're back 5 days. Okay, now we've been in back. I don't want to say it seems like we've always been doing it, but it's like. But it was only a month ago that we made the first step in to be back 5 days. Remember that to be that adventure ride to go get to. Before that it was hybrid. Before that it was remote. I mean, it's been such a journey. So I know Amy's going to talk about the numbers and things like that, but I felt it was important to just say, I just want to thank the staff, and it's everybody. It's the teachers, it's the support staff. But our custodians were outstanding to make sure that these places were clean from top to bottom. And then when we would have a positive, and Josh would have a positive case down at the junior high, we'd have to call it, and they would get down to the room and they would quote unquote deep clean it, and then they would close it off. And so, and our bus drivers for transporting all of these kids, and our bus drivers for delivering things when we asked them to. So, I know I'm rambling, but I just wanted to say thank you to everybody as Amy transitions to that, because I think it's important to be able to say that, heading into that. So, Annie, go ahead.
Okay. Talk a little bit about personnel. Part of the week that we're at the time we were talking about coverage range, salary adjustments, and things like that. The last time we talked about this was in July of last year. And we had the lady that specifically we were going to give our meeting recommendations to guys in May and June, instead of our last 2 weeks of the whole meeting was in May. Actually, we did wait until July. I was really kind of taking a look at property taxes, see what's happening, see what's coming back as we see in session. And fortunately, we're in a better position now. We feel that the state's a lot more steady. We feel as though our property taxes are a lot more steady. And we don't exactly have the same exact concerns as last year. Now, with that being said, but we at least are pretty confident about this next year to come. The recommendations that we have here are built into the budget and the financial projections. The financial projection we discussed a couple months ago are obviously better than we had anticipated. Our year-round staff typically receive their pay increases on July 1st. Last year we had to retroactively increase them when we approved it in July. And that's for the year-round office staff, for the maintenance and administration. The other support staff pay increases are effective for September 1st for the clerical, food service, related service, and transportation. So we've talked about this for a few years, how the minimum wage increase in the state of Illinois is affecting our support staff starting rates. And we've kind of seen this chart a few times. And really we're just hoping to kind of progress it forward. Keeping the food service workers at that minimum wage is going up $1 each year until we get up by $25 at $50 an hour. For teachers, since we've negotiated that rate, we'll be negotiating with them in this next year, but that one's kind of already set. For custodians, down to nurses on this chart, we increased 85 cents per hour for each starting rate. And that kind of tracks forward pretty well, so it's still kind of keeping improvements in different groups, but still bringing them up, not having to maximum everybody at $1. So ultimately, we'd like to progress with the same chart that we've been using for the last few years, and we follow that minimum wage moving forward. In terms of support staff increases, for FY21, if you recall, we increased everyone's hourly rate by 85 cents for all of our non-certified staff members. We also did a service rate adjustment ranging from 25 cents per hour to $8.20 per hour, and that's for length of service in the district. Those are one-time things that we did for the jail custodians as well as our support staff. For our jail custodians, negotiated contracts for professional increases for FY22 are $1.10, and we also try to have that budgeted for all of our non-certified staff members. 12 people that we would have started with last year that are not with us now, and or are retiring, and maybe a couple of them are retiring. Custodial maintenance, I list 5 because that's based on previous year last year. Within that group, we also lost another 3 or 4 that started and left, but it didn't really impact the total cost because we replaced one for life. And then bus drivers, same thing, we had another 1 or 2 beyond the free. So in terms of cost savings, that's how many we turned over this year. So as I mentioned, we're recommending $1 per hour. What you see here is it amounts to about 4% increase across the board. The total hours in the school is about 185,000 hours. So if you see, if we had carried everybody forward and given everybody $1,000, we would have spent nearly $200,000 on this for $1.10 per hour. Fortunately, unfortunately, because we've had turnover, but because we've had turnover, we're able to see some cost savings in that. But I did give you a couple different options here to kind of look at. I think the goal would be that we would like to look for a recommendation for approval of the increases at our May 25th board meeting. But if you guys have any questions in the meantime, just let me know at the end, and we can discuss what we're doing before that. Any questions about that? Okay, and for our administrative staff, we, over the last 2 years, actually, as long as I've been, we've done a full increase. And I just showed the historical average salary increase from FY17 to FY21. And again, we currently have budgeted at about 2%. So I also just wanted to list out the past staffing changes. As you can see from FY17, we were about 1.3 million. We dipped down to 1.18 million, and now we're back to about 1.2, 1.23, 1.27, 3%. We don't have any turnover in the next couple of years that we're aware of, but we expect in a couple of years out. So we're going to that cycle.
Just missed it, yeah.
For extra duties, in FY19 and FY20, we increased all extra duties by 3%. We had done that for a couple of years prior to that as well. We did not increase extra duties by anything for the FY21 fiscal year. We're currently budgeting and recommending again a 3% overall increase for all of these extra duties. And we're also requesting the addition of an MCSS coordinator position at each of our buildings. This is something that Sherry's spoken to you about a few times. Each of these individuals will work really closely with the curriculum department, building principals, and intervention specialists to make sure that
There's coordination between the two, yeah. I was just going to jump in, Amy, and it's about coordination and making sure that we talk a lot about the MTSS work that we're going to be doing. And Terry's mentioned this before, she's put a link in there in regards to the coordinator position, but this will be very helpful to be able to work with our learning strategies that we're going to be implementing for next year. We'll be working with Terry, they'll be working with building principals, they'll be working with the interventions and building principals. It's a real important position to be able to work with for next year.
And Terry's been working with individuals in the building, starting to kind of model that, and we want to look at them as a coordinator does give a job description as to what those responsibilities would be. And ultimately, we compared the second committee staff as a coordinator that we have one in each building currently, so we would recommend putting it on so we can get one in the hours. Also, if you want to look at what extra duties would be, that's also included in the document. So just one other thing I wanted to know, Ted asked me to tell you guys that you learn to learn when you start seeing them. We have quite a few vacancies that we're going to start posting for with the anticipation that we'll be able to bring all of these back again next year. If for some reason something crazy happens, everybody want to say that?
Don't even say
Obviously, we would not continue forward with staffing and didn't have those, but we will be looking to replace all of these positions for next year. That is all that I got. The next is Dr. Newman.
Yeah, as Josh walks down, I just wanted to touch bases so you can kind of talk a little bit. This is a nice opportunity to open the board and ask, hey, what would a full-time learning center director look like at the junior high? And so Josh has done a nice job of working with Jess, working with the high school, as well as working with Carrie in regards to what would these learning center director positions offer us to be able to provide kind of some consistency, some collaboration, some nice possibilities there to be able to work with. And of course, who can go wrong with a lovely picture? This is definitely on a Tuesday evening as well. So that we'll see at the end of the presentation.
Oh,
Josh, go ahead.
Good evening, everybody. So I just want to start by thanking the people that helped me kind of craft what this position could look like. As Dan mentioned, Mike Effling, but also Kim Reinhardt and Chrissy Bauer all worked with me to figure out kind of what a learning center director could possibly do for the junior high. So this is just a few things that they came up with and I came up with. But really, I'm sure there are other things as well if you're able to fill this position that a potential learning center director could contribute to the building. But one of the main things is we want to create a culture of reading at junior high, like what is at the elementary school. Want to have a continuous or some continuity for the experience and have somebody to collaborate with at the high school and elementary and pre-K levels as well. Could possibly look at developing exploratory offerings, supporting existing courses, additional support and opportunities for developing students' reading and writing skills, serving as a co-teacher, and providing some extracurricular activities as well. So as far as creating a culture of reading at the junior high, as a male, as a former resistant or reluctant reader myself, it's kind of the time in kids' lives, particularly with boys, where they kind of lose interest in reading. And so there's a lot of things that I would love for the Learning Center director to be able to do to keep that excitement and enjoyment of reading going. And these are all ideas from what's already happening at Jess in particular. So author visits, incentivizing reading programs, whole school contest, one book, one school type of activities where everybody reads the same book, annual book fairs which are already happening, and then increasing the book checkout for all ELA teachers. So having somebody who's a certified staff member who can guide our staff in getting students with the right books in their hands, books they're interested in reading, and that they will read outside of the classroom. As I mentioned, we also want to ensure some continuity and collaboration between the levels. So particularly because Jess and JJ share a building, they will be able to collaborate to bring some of the ideas that they're using to support student engagement up to the junior high. Incorporate other activities that kids enjoy at the elementary levels that provide continuity of experiences. And then it's also a good opportunity to share resources. So if we have an activity that's going on at Jess, something that Chrissy Bauer came up with, we can then carry that over to the junior high as well. It is a library media center director position, and the nice thing about that media center piece in particular is being able to support teachers with integration of technology. I know that everybody has increased their proficiency on technology this year exponentially, but when working in buildings previously where there was a media center director, it's invaluable to basically have a technology coach along with all the other hats that the position would wear.
If you want, Kathy actually is very good at that. She'd be happy to jump in on this.
Pardon?
Technology support, Kathy?
Yeah,
Right? Yeah.
Cooper, you have an assistant coach?
I'm on speed dial.
So some of the other ideas that have been floated are some bolstering some of the existing exploratory offerings and also possibly adding some. So we'd love to have a literacy or journalism class or a newspaper program. Working with the Johnsburg weekly news staff, I love that they have a newspaper. It'd be great if we could have one as well. They can offer some courses on a rotating basis regarding digital literacy, research skills, inquiry, project-based learning. These are all things that are part of the ELA curriculum, but the Learning Center director could help plan some of that and push in to help provide some co-teaching. And another way that they could support our exploratory teachers in particular is our STEM teacher. Sorry, he's still called a technology teacher. But supporting some of those offerings and having additional materials for students to have enrichment activities beyond what they're doing in class, and even providing some co-teaching as well. And we'd love to even include the Spanish classes getting into the library by maybe offering some Spanish reading materials. So a couple of these things I touched on a little bit. We'd love to have a journalism program where we have a student-created newspaper to keep kids informed on what's going on in the school. It'd be great if we could have some book clubs that the learning center director could facilitate, and that I would participate in as well. And then a number of different enrichment activities, as you see there. So, a lot of times, one of the questions for teachers in the classroom, for students that already get it, is, well, what now? And learning center director could really offer some opportunities for enrichment through some independent research, maybe an extension off of something that kids are learning in the classroom, pulling groups of readers together to read more challenging text, and even real-life application projects. And as I mentioned a couple of times, also pulling kids out for small group for maybe remediation for reading instruction, but also pushing in to provide co-teaching support for either small group or individualized instruction. So, as you can see, the possibilities are endless. We just have one thing missing. Or person.
Any questions we can answer?
I'm struggling a little bit to,
Okay.
what is your learning center, what is the use of it right now? Are they not certified staff? How is it utilized, or obviously underutilized, but what is it used for right now?
I would say a lot of it is book checkout, but it's inconsistent in terms of which ELA teachers take their students and how frequently. It's used for, tests being read and things like that. It's kind of just a multi-purpose space, but it's not really used a whole lot for instruction.
So there's like no set rotation of like, all your junior high kids are visiting the library?
Correct, not for all grade levels.
Would that be the plan, that it would be consistent, like, I love that the younger grades, that's one of their specials, and they go there once or twice a week, and it's consistent, so it's all kids are getting service for learning center. Is that what the plan would be for the junior high, that every junior high kid is going to be, I don't want to say forced, but that would be forced, because sometimes at that age, you're right, they lose interest in reading and those that love reading, whether your learning center is servicing them or not, they will find outlets to read. And I do support them being forced to be in the learning center, but is that what the plan would be, that all of our students are going to be rotated through, whether it's through, is it ELA time? I guess, how do you fit it into your schedule?
Right. Well, traditionally, in my experience, it's usually been done during ELA time. But it can also be done during study halls, it can be done during intervention time. But definitely having a regular rotation of opportunities for kids to get in there. I don't want to say that it would be one particular approach or another, but making sure that it is consistent and that kids are having regular opportunities to get in there and check out materials. I think right now one of the challenges is, do we have necessarily the materials that kids want to read? Is that why they're not coming in? Or do we not buy the materials because they're not going to read them? It's kind of a chicken and the egg thing, and I think that the number one way to increase reading is, like you said, exposure. But I also think that somebody with a current knowledge of best practices of reading and how to inspire a love of reading could maybe kind of freshen up some of our approaches and
So I want to jump in real quick, Josh. I think that continuum battle is also really important, where you've got that trend started at Jess, and then to be able to, if it's just a routine and habit, right? Just boom, then it's like second nature for the kids.
Absolutely, I'm not disagreeing with that. My question is that, will it fit in the schedule on a consistent basis?
And the goal is, yes, and it's going to take a year to be able to get that built in. So in other words, it wouldn't happen immediately next year. Let me rephrase that. Out of classes next year, yes. But as a separate exploratory course, that will take a year to construct to be able to get that into a rotation to be able to do that. If that's what you might say.
Yes.
Did you have one in the past at one time?
When
Mine
I
was.
That would have been, I think, that was probably 10 to 12 years ago.
Yeah, she followed Chris Waldo.
Yeah, but that's the name I was thinking of, was Chris Waldo, and Well, that's that Michelle follow Chris, and then
But then we did have two
we had to
paraprofessionals
Right.
who really did, but I was wondering, do we even have anyone who orders books for our learning center at the junior?
Yeah, so,
Oh, okay.
oh, sorry, super close there. So right now, we have a unicorn in our library. It's military commissioner,
Right,
who has a library sciences degree,
yes,
but is on an A to pay.
right,
So she's retiring.
Okay.
And we're not gonna get somebody with her knowledge of, I mean, she's phenomenal at what she does, but
Right.
there's no replacing her.
right.
But just because people with her skill set aren't taking that pay.
Okay.
So to circle back at the point in time when we did have one, why did we get away from it at that point in time?
budget cut.
Budget cuts?
Simple as that.
As simple as that.
And we
That's
have Terry.
kind of where I thought the answer was gonna go,
Right.
and that was 12 years ago.
I don't think it was that long, but it's been a while.
It's been a long time, maybe 10.
Wow, I was gonna say 8, but
You
time's
remember,
flying.
I remember that was part of the one sitting in the room, the old conference room.
Yeah,
We had them all up on the wall.
right.
You-
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, and Terry was so,
Yep. That's why.
talented, and so that was a budget cut, but not really.
So all we had at that time, this is when it was a 5A building. Okay, so we had the north and the south wings, and remember a couple years ago. And so when we were able to do that, you only needed one in the building. Okay, so that's why we were able to do it. So we had the one in the north, and then Terry in the south, and the one in the north was able to be able to quote unquote cover the south. So that's why we were able, that's why the budget came. It's an exciting opportunity.
Yeah. It's an important position.
And, I mean, I guess it's exciting to get back to where it used to be,
Right,
right? I mean,
exactly.
Take it to the next level.
it's, yeah.
The only bummer is our best teachers leave the classroom and go into the civil learning center. Hard replacing of the classroom.
Or we consider reaching our students.
Yeah,
I guess it's almost kind of sad to hear about what's transpired over the last number of years because of having to go through that budget cut
it was
and
was
watching
painful.
what suffered in that learning center for so many years, you know, just because of that.
I mean, and, and I've talked to the ELA teachers about kind of rearranging the learning center so that it's more, I don't know, so it looks kind of more like the Jasmine, where it's teachers who can come in and instruct, or the library media center and, correct and instruct. And it seemed kind of silly to do all of that, knowing that Terry was going out, and I didn't want to make changes, without having a new person, whoever it is, whatever position it is, has to do like that. But I think it can, the space can be revamped as well, make it more interactive and learning and teaching space.
Chuck?
Feel a bit better.
So, just wanted to kind of go over some special ed items for our year. So our initial evaluation, although it looks somewhat skewed from last year to this year, we did have to push out some of our evaluations from the end, fourth quarter last year, into the beginning of this year. So as far as looking at increase in services for special ed, it might have been just a handful of students more this year, even though it looks like on our chart it was way more. They really feel like our students were getting what they needed this year in terms of services. I know we kind of ramped up the MTSS. It's going to be ramped up even more next year. We're very excited. So as far as special ed, we didn't really see a huge kind of jump for services for us anyway. We'll keep our eye on that for next year. Outplacement, that's always a fun one to talk about with you guys. Look at the 1920 school year to the 2021. Some things dipped, some things grew. Looking at projections for next year, at Ringwood School, we did have a move-in over this year with significant medical needs. It's not something that we were able to give to her. And we do have a couple of students with some severe autism needs. So we did try for 3 years. We've not been making the progress that we feel we need to make. So we are looking for some outplacement facilities for those little guys. Nice drop at the high school. We've got a couple of kids coming back from outplacements, as well as some that have graduated, will be graduating in another couple of weeks. And transition kind of remains about the same. We have a couple of kids that are kind of utilizing our services just to kind of make that bridge to MCC, especially being a year of remote and not really being able to kind of take them on campus and stuff like that. And then Jess will see decrease, the junior high will see that increase. It's just the change in grade levels. So no new students or anything like that. So utilizing all the same outplacement facilities, we're very happy with the services. They communicate with us constantly, so we're really glad with our partnerships with those schools. And GSS behavioral, I thought I'd take this one off Terry's plate since she's always talking to GSS. The other side is the behavioral side. So Terry typically talks more about the academic. Behavioral would be probably more with our social workers. So previously in years past, we had used the SABRE screener, which was a paper-based that the teachers kind of filled out. Terry graciously made it a Google Doc. However, we did not utilize that this year, clearly, because our teachers were really trying to get to new students through a Zoom session, which was not always easy. So the admin team did kind of take a look at some different programs, Panorama, Aspirations, Nourishing Minds, and I'm very proud of it. Click on them, you can get to their website. Terry did have to teach me how to do that. Panorama was not really a screener, there was no progress monitoring to it. So we can go to the next. Fastbridge is similar to the tool that we've used, but the links are more to tools and not necessarily the strategies or real interventions. So looking at branching minds, they do have the DESA screener. The DESA screener does link with the second step curriculum, which is what we do use K-5 currently. And then it also does the progress monitoring links with math and English. So utilizing one tool to help us keep both our academic and our behavioral in one area for our data. So we can take a look at the whole student and not just kind of parts. We have it all in one place. And then just for our upcoming extended school year, I know I touched upon it last time. We do have 28 students currently and 12 students for speech now. I just want to shout out Caitlin Denton, Kate Johnson, Colin Malone, Nicole Mast, Jess Conley, Carmen Truslip, and Stewart, Casey Ward, who is one of our subs, currently did pursue teaching with us, have all graciously accepted 6 weeks of ESY for special ed students. Our pre-K screenings, Monday, June 7th, Tuesday, June 8th. At the time of this written, there was 13 students signed up, we did another 19 awaiting paperwork. That is somewhat low. Last year we only had 20, obviously. And the year before that we had about 50. So typically we have been in the last couple of years doing another day closer to the beginning of school, in the beginning of August, for those that either didn't know about the June screening or weren't able to make it. So I'm hopeful that we'll have a couple more numbers by then. And then just as far as Aaron and I, finalizing
I just want to thank Diane for, we talk about a teacher shortage going on, right? And you guys, she just goes up. She's been through the ringer trying to get these teachers hired because they're just not there, or they're priced out, and they can't come here for what we offer. Not saying anything about that, but it's been a ringer that she has been through to be able to try and get people hired. So when we talk about the teacher shortage, you don't see it every day, but she'll come in and be like, nope, I lost another one that you're gonna offer, that's all, or nope, this one got a job elsewhere, or there's just, so I just wanted to say thanks to Fran for that. That teacher shortage is real.
This has been, it is not typical for us to be this difficult to find some special ed teachers. I've actually gone through all the general ed teachers and applied for Laura's positions to see if they have my qualifications I need, and have reached out to them as well. And this has been a difficult year to find special ed teachers.
Yeah. So I just wanted to shout that out.
But we're hopeful. We got one. Any questions?
As we transition to Terry, I just wanted to touch base on, remember I talked earlier about legislation that we were watching. One that potentially could be impacting us instructionally is the new one, there's one that has passed the House, it's in the Senate floor that, and I hope this comes out right, not that I don't think that this is valuable, but it's a mandate for 1 hour of mandated supervised recess within the instructional day, K-8. 1 hour of K-8 recess time mandated by law during the instructional day, must be supervised. It has passed the House, it has a lot of support in the Senate, my understanding, and then it would go to the Senate. It's not a total 1 hour, so you can divide it up. But it's got to be part of it, and physical education is not considered part of it, specifically in the legislation. So just bits and pieces of the things that we're looking for.
They should see what an hour a day of indoor recess would look like at Ringwood School.
Correct.
That's all I have to say.
Well, that's what's so funny, is we're talking about learning and making up this learning, right? And then they're like, what are we going to do about it or something? And then they're going, hey, let's just give them another hour of recess.
It's not all negative.
It's not.
There's value in playing, there's value in
Absolutely.
there's value
There is.
calories, and you're less fancy in the chair.
I agree.
Arrive 15 minutes early, recess, half hour after lunch.
Right.
Not all bad things.
Yeah.
Yep. It'll be interesting to see how it's delineated in the law, so just keep it in the loop on that. Sorry, Terry, go
Oh,
ahead.
you're fine. That's my favorite. All right, just want to give you again an update on the goals that we've been discussing all year, but first again, ask me to kind of clarify some MTSS here. Definitions, just because we won't be talking about these over and over again, just to make sure. And I realize, well, MTSS, we're really looking at them in kind of two contexts. Sometimes the tiers refer to the amount of students being serviced. Tier 1 is all students, Tier 2 is some, Tier 3 is few. That's the simplest way to look at it. But when we're talking about identification for services, we're actually basing it on student achievement. We're looking at percentiles, which is comparison of performance against the median. So when we talk about students that are in Tier 2, they have scored between usually the 10th and 25th percentile according to our criteria. Most of the time they see 10 to 16 for standard deviation. But Tier 3 is below the 10. So when we talk about identification for services, we're talking about those specific percentiles that have been identified. And then I attached a nice little overview. Really that's the MTSS that we're kind of looking to achieve is in that overview reference. All right, so we've been monitoring Tier 1 year, kind of hitting some of the outcomes. Again, we provided additional training on these new priority standards, lots of instructional technology training, a lot, especially at the beginning of the year. We recognize the need for that, and staff are very good at communicating those needs to me, especially about technology. We continue to implement follow-up with staff regarding that PD. As you know, I attended quite a few meetings this year. And again, kept referencing the differentiation, spiraling, especially at grades 3 through 5, because that kept coming up in the meetings. and again, technology training. Worked with the K-5 and KSS and teacher teams to really look at student data in terms of tiers, which we talked about last time. And I know that these are created in spreadsheets, because as Fran referenced with Branching Minds, one of the fantastic things about that program is that it will take our input data, it will take our math data, and put it into those tiers for me, so I don't have to hand enter all that data myself. And then before.
Once we get a little bit closer towards implementation, we're gonna bring that and show that to you, because that'll really be a nice tool that we'll be able to utilize. Here, I went through a webinar myself on it, and it's not only some nice information from the board as it relates to reports, they're simplistic and easy to understand, but yet summarize things for you guys. And the thing that Terry and I talked about was, it's clear interventions for staff. It's literally at the end of the frame of the screen, you can click and go, here's a bunch of interventions for this kid that they can, or the student that they can utilize. So we're gonna bring you that and show you kind of how it can be utilized. It's really quite impressive.
And that's the one thing I've heard all year, theoretical, we don't have a lot of interventions, we don't know what to do, we only have these, well, this provides a library of them. And I think kind of expands the notion on interventions, you don't always have to be a purchase program, it can be a strategy that is research-based as well. So, new resources in there. Also ensured that the district adopted curriculum was still being implemented. I know when we went to remote, there were a lot of questions about, well, what will we drop? We can't, we don't have time to do everything. So there was really a lot of questions on how do we still implement this curriculum with fidelity, so that the students are still receiving what they need to for their curriculum.
Just want to say thanks to Terry to circling the staff, some staff members back to that direction to make sure that we get that.
Yes, the one good thing I think about, or one thing I do with the winter development data really, is that it can break it down by teacher, and it becomes very obvious from that teacher report with what is not being implemented with fidelity. It's like a red flag.
And then you're able to use that to be able to go to that teacher and be
Yes.
like,
Or go to that team meeting and go, okay, let's discuss this. What's going on? So it's a starting point for that discussion. We plan in future areas for follow-up. We're going to meet the buildings, we're going to train staff and principals regarding MTSS. MTSS is slightly different. If you've heard the term RTI, which when I first started teaching was called REI, which is coming on. But RTI is mainly focused on academics, and unfortunately, I think the mindset of RTI was that it was a route to get students into special education services, whereas MTSS is really focused the other direction and on making sure students are successful in Tier 1. So I think we kind of need some retraining on that. Ensuring that Tier 1 supports are in place. That was again another, sometimes it became a hot topic in some of the grade level meetings on what should be required at Tier 1 to ensure that we're supporting students. Continued intentional and targeted use of technology for student learning. The one thing I think we would be remiss in doing is just kind of going back to what school looked like in 2019 in terms of some of the technology use that we've seen. Some of it can be really powerful for kids. So, and develop and implement those Tier 2 and Tier 3 teams that I've discussed before. One thing we are going to do is we're going to put Dolly Bonds in kindergarten. We already talked to kindergarten about this. They're very interested in using it. We're using it as an intervention now. We're getting good results. It's actually meant to be a classroom curriculum, so we've got to put that in there so we can get some systemic phonics instruction for our kindergartners. And for it's also meant for first grade students to use it. For Tier 2 and Tier 3, again, monitoring those outcomes. Again, modifications and revisions have been ongoing as I go through all the MTSS meetings. Again, we're going to benchmarking data, and I developed an outline process for MTSS meetings based around what's called a problem-solving process you're supposed to do. I noticed that wasn't being implemented quite as well as it should have been, so we're going to clarify that for next year too. And continued evaluation of those interventions, which especially at K2, since we put a lot more new stuff down there. I met with them recently. We talked about, hey, what's going to work for next year? What do we need? So a lot of evaluation of those. Also, especially with those new student interventions, again, one of the things that I think I'll mention this later is that it really requires teachers or interventionists, whoever was doing it, to actually put the progress monitoring data into Ainscot. Because if you're going to refer a student for special education services, Fran needs that data in order to make that determination.
can I just touch base on that too? And that data, besides the evaluation, and Fran, you jump in if I'm wrong here, that's also used in case there's a due process hearing or in case there's any legal part of it. So it's not just that we're saying, hey, you gotta do this extra, that's all information that we have to have in the system that is utilized during the special ed process. So it's not just like an exercise of futility, it's if there's anything that happens, quote unquote, legally with that child, to have that information in that spot, it's required, it's needed. You have it on special ed on one end, but you also have issues that sometimes you deal with regular ed students that you need to have that data. So if it's in that spot, that's why we have that happen. It's not an exercise of futility, so.
Yeah, it needed to be accompanied to the qualitative data, descriptive data, that usually that's what's provided to the quantitative.
And just the one last thing, Terry, it's sometimes it's a challenge, because sometimes we feel like we're a little bit isolated out here, and that type of stuff doesn't happen out here in Johnsburg, but as Fran will attest.
We had the state complaint a few years ago.
Right,
That was all the
that's
data that we needed to compile for ISB.
And I think technology has allowed parents to become more educated on that type of stuff, so the research is there, so they're able to, so that's why we want to make sure that we talk about getting our ducks in a row, continue to help staff make sure we get those ducks in a row like that, so. Anyway, I think that will provide you some context for why that is in there like that, so. Go ahead, Terry, thank you.
Future areas for follow-up, again, we're going to meet the buildings, we're going to plan for, again, the MTSS training previously mentioned, implementing those tier 2, tier 3 teams, and MTSS coordinators as the segments approved, or that position is approved. And again, it's really a comprehensive intervention training system. Again, Fran mentioned it for PERA, it's also, it does both things, it does the SEL and it does the academic, or the academic and the digital MTSS. It's a very interesting program, it's a neat program, and again, like I said, it actually will put all our kids into those tiers according to our own criteria that are already in our handbook. And then when we can assign an interventionist, it's basically a one-stop shop for everything. And plus it has the SEL screener, something called the DESA, in it, which our social workers have been asking for years. But now it's more affordable since they've seen the training plans. So. And obviously we're going to overhaul our system. Yeah, just want to touch base on the before and after school programs. The JEST program is currently ending on Friday. We're going to review the data that they collected. And so we're going to sit down and take a look at that program. And I put the specific details from the last presentation there. And at Renwood, that is occurring, what was mentioned at the last meeting, right now. So we have first and second grade doing grade weeks, and we have kindergarten with Carmen doing phonics and a lot of multi-sensory activities. That room is very busy after school. A lot of stuff going on. But she's gotten some very positive feedback so far. So very glad that she agreed to do that for us. And put the details there to see a little bit of those. For summer school, again, we're finalizing the plans. We're getting all the details together. So I linked all those details for you. We're actually offering 2 types of programs, and this is based on a lot of parent input that I got. Some parents just wanted I just want practice. They weren't specific, but I want my child to practice over the summer and kind of build skills that they may need. So we're offering what we call a general learning recovery. Just if anybody needs practice, we're not targeting specific skills or specific grade level. But we also recognize, according to the data, that we have some targeted focuses that we need to address. And so those are the targets.
Jump in real quick. I meet every year, every week. Nobody in the county is doing general learning recovery that I'm aware of. The only ones that are offering that option for our parents to be able to say, hey, if you want to take something, here's some options to be able to help support it. Everybody that I've talked to are all doing the targeted learning recovery. We're the only ones that I'm aware of that's doing the general learning recovery option for our families. So, what grade levels is this for?
It's for K-12. So yeah, I linked to the specific details there. The general learning recovery is mainly it's 6 through 12. It's we're doing the Illinois Virtual School. They have some good middle school bridge programs that are just meant to help, kids need extra help. And then obviously at the high school we're doing further recovery. But we will be doing a lot of reading and math camps for the targeted in August. So to kind of front load the school year and get essential skills. So. And Josh is going to update on the schedule.
Dr. Frederick?
Yes, just an update on the schedule. We are revising the schedule so that there will be equal time for all core subjects. And we have been meeting as a schedule committee. We met weekly for 4 weeks there to look at a variety.
I'm sorry, did you say all core or just all subjects?
All core subjects, yeah.
We had that because it was there.
Yeah, I guess, yeah,
We had a key
yeah,
law,
it's still a process, but I guess with the exception of band and choir, it would still be, yeah, I apologize, that's actually including PE and sports. And so we formed a schedule committee with volunteers from all different teams, and also representation from all subject areas, and we established some criteria of what we wanted our schedule to provide us, and then looked at a variety of different structures of schedules, and we were lettering them, and I think we got up to L or M. Brandon was L, yeah,
L, but we had like
L.
A1, A2.
But then we have, yeah, we have variations of, yeah. So, a lot of schedules that we've looked at and trying to find one that checks all of the boxes. We also have the leadership team take a look at the schedule, give feedback and offer suggestions, and basically just try to pull holes in it. And there are things that we wanted to make sure that the schedule provides that it hasn't previously, namely intervention time with the learning recovery that we're anticipating needing in the upcoming school year because of the pandemic. We want to make sure there's dedicated time in the day for that. Also always providing time for the IEP-related service minutes, incorporating time to address student social and emotional needs, and continuing to offer band and choir within the school day. So if you remember, a couple of years ago, we switched from having that be before school because it was affecting our numbers, and so it's going to continue to be offered during the day. And there was also a parent focus group that I met with to hear concerns from parents and get their input, and that's something that I brought back to the committee as well. So we are still in the process of working that out. Chris Siebel was running some tests on a preferred schedule to see what kind of conflicts come up when we put groups of students through it in Skyward. I checked in with her today, she said 6th grade went okay. So I'm going to continue to check in with her and see where we're at with that, but hoping to have a schedule soon. Any questions on that?
And I just want to thank Terry and Fran for helping out as well, so they were an integral part of being part of the meeting, being part of the planning, being all that. So thanks, Fran and Terry, for that as well. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks, Josh. Cooper! As Cooper makes his way down, this is a monumental task to be able to get through as it relates to implementing SOLA for next year. And Coop has done a really good job. I think is this number 6, number 5 for this presentation?
About 6, I think.
Yeah, so
Somewhere around there.
he's met with the staff to be able to do that. We wanted to have the information to the staff as soon as we could, so that way they could plan and make adjustments, because it's going to be a change for them. You may hear about some frustrations from staff because it's a little bit more Big Brother than what it has been before, but we have to do it in order to follow this. So,
Great. So we're going to talk a little bit today about the Student Online Privacy Protection Act. That's kind of what is going to affect us going forward. There are some new provisions in that act that go into effect July 1. So right now, in the last couple of weeks, we've met with each building and kind of went over what those new requirements are and what that means for our teachers and our staff. And then we'll kind of cover the same topics that we covered with them tonight. So it's called the Student Online Privacy Protection Act, also known as SOPA. That's the short term. But before we get into the details of what the law is, we're going to kind of talk about what its premise is or why the law was created in the first place. So we're not the first state to have some similar legislation to this. This has been done in California, I think New York, a couple other states have also done similar legislation. But basically the premise is that security in schools isn't just locking the door anymore, it isn't just physical security. With all of the new applications that we're using online, there's a lot more that is involved with that. And protecting that data is the responsibility of the school, as well as the ed tech vendors that we use is kind of the premise with this. So what can happen if data is leaked or not handled properly? I think we all know some of these things. We probably haven't scanned emails before, or had our information out there that shouldn't have been out there, but that's basically what we're trying to protect here with this law. So specific to us, what is SOFA, who does it affect? It impacts all Illinois schools, ISB, and then the vendors that we work with, the ed tech vendors, also known as the applications that we use on our Chromebooks, on our iPads, etc. So that puts new requirements for us in the school district in regards to transparency. We have to post a list of all the different ed tech apps that our students log into on our website by July 1. We have to also post what student data is shared with each of those different applications. As a department, we have to post our adherence to our best security practices on our website. And then if any of the applications we use were to have a breach, we need to notify our parents if it affects over than 10% of our students. On our website, we need to post that as well as send out a notification. So those are the new requirements in short. We'll go into a little more detail now with that. And probably one of the biggest requirements, the most challenging requirements that we're having right now is SOFA mandates that we must have a written data privacy agreement with every single ed tech app that we use with our students that they log into, that being the keyword that they log into. So this doesn't necessarily apply to all free software. There is some exceptions to that, but I'll talk about that in a second. So right now we're trying to establish this agreement with each of our vendors. We're going to post on our website the best security practices info for our parents on how they can opt out of these services or have data deleted from those services. And then again, the breaches, like I mentioned in the last slide, but that is the other requirement. So for our staff, obviously that's going to change some of the way that we need to handle different applications that we're using with our students going forward. So typically now, teachers may just start piloting something in their classroom with their students, whereas going forward now we're going to have to make sure that that application has been vetted by the district and that we have a data privacy agreement if we do need that for that application. So staff will have to file a request going forward, so we're aware of all the applications that they're using. Teachers can no longer purchase access to tools for students on their own if it doesn't have approval. On that same note, so we need to get approval first, basically. And then right now, what we're doing is we're evaluating all of our current tools for compliance. So anything that we know about already that's on our subscription list, we're going through right now, and we're working with those vendors to establish these contracts. So elaborating a little bit more on that, what I said a second ago, if the student logs into the application, that's when that becomes a requirement that we get this agreement. And I believe this is in the handout in the presentation as well that you guys have, so you can review it later, but there are some more exceptions to that where if any of this information is shared up here, it would also fall under needing an agreement. Basically, it comes down to personal information in that list. And then the big thing for us being the vendor that we use or an application that we use doesn't agree to our contract, we won't be able to use them going forward. So that was a lot that we just talked about, a lot of different requirements. And obviously one of the biggest challenges for us is to be how to manage all that in one place going forward. So in order to do that, we've moved forward with another platform on that screenshot on the right side, that's that parent library that I was talking about a second ago. This will go live on our website relatively soon before July 1. Where the parents will be able to go look at all of our different applications that we use with our students. They can click on those and then see the required privacy agreements for those applications. It's also a platform for us as tech staff and for our teachers. They can go in and take a look at different applications. This is what the teachers see right now, so they can go look at a list and review each application they're using with their students and see what our District 12 approval status is from the ThinLearn platform. We gave them a brief introduction the last couple of weeks, and right now we're basically having them all log in here and compare the list of what's already been established that we know about versus what they're using. And if anything's missing, we're asking that they go ahead and put in a request through the platform. That's another one of the features that it has within the platform is to be able to handle those requests. So when a teacher puts in the request, it comes to myself and Terry, and then we can evaluate that and make sure that it is compliant and establish that contract. And then the teacher that's requesting it gets an email notification. So that's kind of where we're going with that and what the Learn platform does. This is just another screenshot of how the teacher can request the application from within the platform. Does anyone have any questions? I know it's kind of a lot.
A lot for you. Yikes.
Yeah, it's really time consuming getting the contract signed. I think that's the hardest thing is sometimes they'll add on, there is a statewide agreement that we're using, so for the most part it's just typing some stuff and signing, but a lot of times what we're finding is the vendors adding additional provisions in there and then we have to get that reviewed, by our legal team and then it takes a while.
I'm sure they have a lot of legalese from their side of things.
Yeah.
Are they getting any pushback from a lot? I would imagine this is probably where a
Well,
lot of the world is headed.
Yeah, a lot, exactly. So since other states have done it before us, I think it's helped a lot with, a lot of these vendors are already aware that this is the direction we're moving. I think it's going to be more of some of the free software that we use that might have student information that they may not be as compelled to agree to these agreements if they don't have the resources to support the requirements of the law. So we're going to have to monitor as we go. We're kind of using July 1. The date that the provisions go into effect is a little bit of a cushion, and if we don't have any agreements for certain apps by then, it's our plan to let the teachers know that they send them an email, have them check the list again. We'll have to start thinking about what might happen if we don't, or if we aren't able to use some of the programs that we do right now. But for the most part, any of our paid stuff, I'm not very worried about.
It sounds like there's a state agreement, right? It's not like we are.
No, we're not writing the contract. There is a statewide contract. It's just a little bit time consuming when vendors, they have different things on. We have quite a lot of apps between 4 schools. It's hard to imagine how we use so much, but being in the platform is kind of opened my eyes to that, so.
And it's helpful too, I'll jump in, it's been helpful to Terry, curriculum-wise, and it's going to be helpful, very helpful moving forward to be able to get the program tied together, and appropriate use and all that type of stuff moving forward. So that's what I love platform is such a nice tool to be able to do.
Yeah, there's more than just what compliant with SOPA within in the platform that we're going to get explore a little bit more next year, but we can have the teachers create different applications that we're already using, which might help us get feedback on how well it's working in the classroom. And then there are different reports in there that can kind of track how effectively some of the programs are working. So we're excited to kind of see where that goes next year. But right now we're just focused on getting the contracts in. Yep. Anything else? All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
No policy report here, sorry.
Thanks.
Move on to other business. I know we have a meeting here on the 25th. That potentially could be it. Maybe, if everybody's okay, we may be able to go back to the old place if that's okay for everyone.
Oh, that's okay.
Old John
Second?
Touch base with everybody for your